Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch a Movie. I am Mike, and this is a review of ISS, and we'll have spoilers with plenty of warning at the end, so don't you worry about it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You know what? I'm finding out most people only watch these reviews after they've seen the movie anyway, because they're so used to people surprise spoiling them. I'm not going to do that to you here. Not around these parts, not in this space station. It's what I like to call my treehouse in the backyard. I drew a rocket ship around it, and I just sit in it and do evil incantations. That's none of your goddamn business, all right? So it's January, and you know, you never know what to expect in January, especially when you see a trailer like you saw for ISS. When this trailer came out, I was like, A, that's a badass idea. B, it looks amazing. And C, oh, it's releasing in January. Something's wrong with it. It's broken. That's not always the case. Sometimes we get some pretty rad January movies. This is like you get why they put it in January, but that doesn't make it all bad. It's not all bad, Steven. So you got the International Space Station hovering above the Earth, and you've got a couple people from Russia there, you got a couple people from America there, and they get along amazing, and they don't talk politics, and they all have, it seems like, pretty smart emotional IQ, and they get along together, and it's just kind of like a neat little microcosm of, hey, we could all be this way if we just, you know, put our shit aside and just lived in a space station and floated around all fucking day. It's like you're going to be nice to someone if you have to live 3 feet from them is really the point of it all. I mean, if you're on the internet, you can be as mean as you want to somebody, but if you're going to be stuck in literal space 4 foot from someone, you're probably not going to be such a dick about it. But it was nice to see us all get along, and that's a neat idea in the movie. But they look down upon the Earth and they see all these explosions happening, and there's a war going on beneath the Earth. They each get coordinates, one from America, one from Russia, that's like, hey, there's a war. We're going to need you to kill everyone and seize control of the ISS because it's now become a foothold. And also, could you pick up some milk on the way home?
Tartar sauce, tartar sauce, tartar sauce, tartar sauce. Man, I'd like to put my face in there. Right in there. Tartar sauce.
And honestly, for a lower budget for this kind of movie, I want to say I heard it was $20 million. Still $5 million more than Godzilla -1, which is fucking awesome. But yeah, I mean, that's a low budget for a movie like this. So with that budget that they had, I thought they did a fantastic job. Earth looked really cool. The explosions going on Earth from orbit looked awesome. All the stuff on the ISS looked cool. Could you tell it's all computer animated? Yeah, I mean, when they flip outside the ship or whatever, but it doesn't look bad by any means. And that's why, even though this movie is a movie that is fully, like, just so disappointing for what it could have been, I still wouldn't not recommend going to see it in a movie theater. I think it's like sending your kid to culinary school thinking they're going to be a great chef, and they came out and they're like, here's a grilled cheese sandwich, Dad. And you're like, I mean, I love a grilled cheese sandwich, but what? When everything goes haywire, everybody who's these genius astronauts and working on these crazy smart ideas is acting like rednecks at a Golden Corral fighting over the last buttered roll. No one's decisions make much sense, and it just gets confusing. And the movie doesn't want to make the obvious Russian versus Americans thing. You know, they're not trying to do the Red Dawn thing, so they try to really surprise you and be like, actually, this person's a good guy and this person's a bad guy, and these two are going to team up. And it's like you're watching Survivor for a minute, but you really don't care. The characters weren't very interesting, and the cast was fine. The cast was good. Chris Messina is somebody I like a lot. He was probably the most interesting character of the group of them. The main girl in the movie, Ariana DeBose, is literally personalityless. You liked the homeboy naked? She's fine. The actress is great. She did a great job in the movie, but just the character has nothing to her. Her literal personality is like, hi, I don't have a personality. There's nothing to me. I just don't like people. So it's going to be really interesting to see what I do in a situation where I trust and like no one. And also, I've been here for 3 days, so I don't actually have emotional attachment to any of you fucking people, which I think is supposed to be interesting, but it actually makes it less interesting. And then there's Pilu Asbeck, who is he just looks like Russian Joshua Jackson, who's just, his job is to stand around the entire time and make like Arnold Schwarzenegger villain faces at people. But he's actually not that bad of a guy. We've surprised you again. It's just, they try to do these twists and turns with the characters, but just none of the characters are really that interesting. None of the twists are really that interesting. And it just kind of, it's a cool premise that literally falls on its face. They have a great idea, that great bubble here, and they're just not smart enough to do anything with it. And that continues through the very end of the movie, which we'll talk about at the end of this video. It even ends with a really cool thought and idea, but the movie is not smart enough to answer its own ideas. So you're kind of left with just a half-decent, forgettable thriller. John Gallagher Jr.'s in the movie. He's yet another cardboard cutout character. He's literally the version of white people everybody makes fun of when they make fun of white people. Seriously, he looks like every neighbor you ever had, but there's a 10% chance there's a dead hooker in his trunk. And really what it ends up in is the movie's just really, really basic. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just super, super basic. And it's kind of afraid to piss anybody off. It's kind of afraid to go there with anything. It's just really basic. And I mean like real basic. Like this bitch is at Target with a Starbucks in its hand in Ugg boots shopping for live, laugh, love signs. Everything interesting was happening outside the space station. So that was a problem, but it was not hateable. It wasn't terrible. It was interesting enough, and just a really, really cool premise that gives you some thoughts to think about and play with, even if the movie, again, wasn't smart enough to figure it out for itself. I'll give ISS a 6.5 out of 10. If you're bored and it's snowing outside, you should go check it out. The same situation for me. I wanted to go see Founders Day as well this weekend, but we are snowed in and it's not playing anywhere close to us. It's like 45 minutes away for some dumb reason. But hopefully we'll see Founders Day and have a review for that up soon. As far as spoilers go, let's talk about that for a second, because so they all go up there. They're in the space station. Basically, the trailer gets you halfway through the movie with everything to expect. But when everything goes to shit and everything falls apart, like that awesome Dog's Eye View song says, they get Chris Messina to go outside of the spaceship, and that was kind of a tense scene. I mean, it wasn't like Gravity or anything like that, but they did a good job having him, like, he's supposed to fix the signal and he's like climbing, and everybody in their mother knows that the Russians were lying about that to get him out there so they could knock him off with their little crane or whatever. Everybody knows it's a lie. So when he gets to the signal, it's supposed to be this grandiose moment where it's like, oh my God, the signal's working fine. And they're like, yeah, I know, Chris, fuck. But yeah, they knock him off, and then you see me and my daughter both laugh because you just see him flying by the window, and it's just kind of funny. It's like, Wendy, I can fly. He goes scooting by the window, and you know he's still alive because you didn't see him die. And then later when they pan out and he's just like hanging on the fucking grate, and it's like something nice to hold on to. Yes, but he's holding on to the fucking thing for dear life. You knew he was going to be alive. And that, to me, was going to be the most interesting thing about it, because John Gallagher Jr.'s character is so obvious. It's like, oh, I've got my little girls. I'm such a sweet guy. I comb my hair over this way. You just knew he was going to be the fucking cunt of the group. You knew it. And Pilu Asbeck is sitting over there making angry faces the entire time while the camera slowly shows his angry face. You're like, that guy's not going to end up being a dick. And he doesn't. He ends up being one of the good guys and one of the ones to survive the entire thing. And the way they explain that whole thing is kind of confusing anyway, because I swear to God, for a minute, there was like only one person can do the escape pod, and then later on it's like, oh, actually you could make room for all of us, and then later on 2 people end up on the escape pod. You're like, what the fuck? I'm confused about exactly what the situation is here. And they foreshadowed so many different things in the movie. The guy's like, when you hear that fan stop, you're in deep shit. And then of course later in the movie it's like, Jew, and she's like, I'm in deep shit. It was just so obvious and again, safe. The entire thing was. And the characters who were supposed to be so smart go crazy. Like the Russian lady, she just absolutely loses her shit and goes banana sandwich. And these two weren't like in a deep relationship. Like her and Chris, the guy that got knocked off the spaceship, they were fucking around a little bit. But she acts like someone just, killed her entire family. And she's freaking out. And she just goes ape shit. She's like, I'm going to create a diversion. She goes and just does this dumb thing. And there's all this bad dialogue between. He's like, remember, we stick together. And then, of course, John Gallagher Jr. with the side comb over turns into a giant freak asshole and busts the back of her head in. It was kind of gross the way he explains it. He's like, no, she's dead. I felt her skull cave in, and you're like, oh, that is gross. And it is weird because like blood up there like kind of flies into the air, which is sort of weird. But then they go full Sunshine Event Horizon when Chris Messina gets back into the ship. He's freaked out because she's dead. He automatically assumes it's the main Russian bad guy who looks like Karl Urban. And that's the guy who's like, okay, this is the caricature Russian bad guy. Because he goes full on, I have to kill everyone. If no one else is going to do it, I'll do it. So he's the one that set up Chris Messina to get killed. And then Messina locks him up in a room together. And then they have this fight together. And it's so uncomfortable. The music thinks that you're watching fucking Disney on Ice or some shit. Like the music is so over the top and dramatic. And when these two go to fight each other, they're fucking floating in midair, like at each other. And like, it's like watching someone fight underwater. It just looks dumb as shit. Like it just does not look interesting at all. They're trying to float around the ship and fight. It looks like Rocket Man or some shit. And then when they kill Chris Messina, the second he's still alive, you're like, oh good, I like that guy. He's interesting. Oh, he's fucking dead again. And then he kills the other guy at the same time. Those deaths did look gnarly in slow motion in space when they just put it in. when they do that, it just looks sort of gross. So that was kind of gnarly a little bit. But that scene was super corny, as was the scene when the Russian guys decides to go full Michael Myers on everybody, which he just knew was coming. That's what's gonna happen. He picks up the sharp thing and he just he fucking floats towards the camera, and they so badly want to be like Event Horizon, but it's not. Like, me and my daughter both laughed at how corny he looked when he was like towards down the hallway. So that shit just didn't work either. But again, like, it sounds like I'm just doing nothing but shitting on the movie. It's such, it works at the most basic level. Like, it's like, oh, okay, it's a popcorn flick. It's all the things that, like, it's just basic. Again, it's just a basic popcorn flick. You can turn off your brain, watch it for a little bit, but that's really not the idea with the script. I feel like this was a script that was on the blacklist in Hollywood, which is a script of the most interesting unproduced scripts, and I see why. It's a great idea, and there was just so many places they could have gone with it, and they were just like, let's do some like ABC television shit with this. Who's in? Let's fucking go. I don't want to piss anybody off today. That's kind of what it felt like. They finally get to the end of all this stuff, and it turns out there's another interesting idea. One of the scientists on there, she's working on mice the entire time, and you get to watch like mice like float around and eat each other at one point. It's fucking weird. But he's working on this radioactive cure thingamajiggy. I'm not good with scientific terms. That's why I do YouTube. But he's working on this cure thing, and I don't know if it's a cure, but it's something to do with, you know, let's just call it a balm for radioactive shit. And like, since the world, and by the way, the Earth, like, you think it's just a couple pockets of explosions. This thing's filling up with fucking lava like the end of T2. I mean, like half the Earth is covered in fire. It's dope as shit looking. It's fucking freaky. And when the guy's out there trying to calm down, it is tense because he's trying to like scoot around the ship or whatever, but like behind him, the entire Earth's on fire. And that's just such a dope scene. And it also has some really great questions like, okay, at the end of it, these two are the ones that get in the pod, right? And she takes this thing, and that, by the way, that's what makes it more interesting, is because the reason each side wants the other side to take control of the ISS is because they know that that's on board, and whoever has that will be in control of who gets it first on Earth when everything's gone to fucking schmigadoon over the nuclear stuff. So that part's fascinating. That's interesting. That was a cool little wrinkle. They didn't really like season it up at all, you know? They didn't fucking season that thing up at all. They were just like, oh, by the way, we got the fucking, you know, it's just matter of factness. But anyway, they decide to go down together. The one girl who wasn't going fucking apeshit the entire time, Ariana DeBose, and the guy who you thought was the bad guy, who's just a nice dude with kind of a I'll kick your fucking ass face in Pilu Aspect's character. They're the two that survive. They get in the escape pod or whatever, and as they like go, you hear the stuff rattling around. It's like, an American's in there. If you're Americans in there, we're here to help you. And it's like whatever military is going on outside of it. And then they just kind of look at each other and like the movie fucking ends. So you wonder what would happen. What happens? They got in that thing. They landed back on Earth with the good shit together. There's one Russian, there's one American, and they both survived it together. What are we going to do now? What's going to become of Earth? What's going on Earth? Why was there a fight? How are they going to treat each of them when they arrive? And the movie's like, just runs out of the room. That's literally what it does. It just runs out of the fucking classroom because it can. It's like, I'm never coming back to school, never. And it throws the chalk at the teacher and runs out of the room. It's like, I can't answer any of my own questions. It's fascinating. I get what they were doing with the whole mic drop. And if they wanted to do a sequel, it would have like a Planet of the Apes level vibe to it. Like, okay, we saw it in space. Now let's see the ramifications of it on Earth. And you know how like Planet of the Apes does that sort of thing. That's a cool thought to see like how it's taken place there. I would watch the sequel to this for sure, but I would like to see someone a little bit more seasoned really go in there and screenplay it up a little bit. I don't think anybody, neither the director nor the writer, has worked on a lot of stuff, and I think it kind of shows in this. So better than your typical January movie. I enjoyed it for what it was, but as an idea, yeah, God, it could have been so much better. So that's my review of ISS. I know like 8 people will watch this because I don't think it's doing very well in theaters right now, unfortunately. But I would go see it in theaters if you're in the mood to go see a movie. I wouldn't go out of my way. But you know, if you're in the mood, you could definitely do worse. So yeah, and hopefully I will have a review of Founders Day up soon. I love your fucking faces. Hope you guys have an amazing day. We'll talk next time.
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, goddamn. Goddamn, you faggot! Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS.